Welcome to Friesen Art Paper and Shadow. This week we are looking at drawing using cut paper and light to make shadows and to make these things look really interesting. So what we have right here is a good example. We've got everything that we need. We have a background piece of paper, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different elements that have been cut out and then propped up so that they are creating a shadow underneath. Okay, that's the minimum that you need. Now, you can see with what I've done here, we've got one geometrical shape, we've got a circle, we've got some abstract shapes that don't look like anything in particular, but they're cut out. This one's rounded, this one's more sharp with straight edges. We've got a crumpled piece that's been cut out, so you can really see the texture in there. And then we've got something that is recognizable. We've got a face here that's been cut out with a little bit more detail. So for your piece, you can have all geometrical shapes, you could have all abstract stuff, you could have all pieces that have been crumpled. It's up to you what you want to do with it. I know some people will want to create a scene with multiple figures or maybe buildings or recognizable vehicles or animals. But you can have any and as much as you want for those. So you don't have to have one of each. You can have whatever combination you want. Now, cutting things out is half of the battle, and then the next part is actually propping them up. And it's actually really easy to prop paper up. You can see this is a really simple shape, just cut out of regular paper and then placed on its side, and you'd control the distance. So this one is about 1 centimeter tall, and you can cut them bigger, you can cut them smaller, and if you want a varying range for your elements, that is something to think about because they can fit together in a really unique and interesting way thinking about that. So I'm going to take these away. You're going to notice that I have used a couple different techniques to prop these things up, but most of it is just straight piece of paper that's been folded according to what it's going to be under, so it fits well. The other thing to note is that I'm using just regular computer paper. So this is just paper from the printer. Everybody should have this at home, so I wanted to do the demo with that. But you can also use whatever paper you want. If you want to use cardboard, you can do that. If you have construction paper that is colored, that's totally fine. If you have cardstock, that's one of the best. If it's a little bit thicker, and you can get it in all types of colors as well. And for this project, we're keeping it mostly monochromatic. So what that means is one color. So if you do with something with blue, then just make sure pretty much everything is blue. Same with the white paper. However, if you want to add in specific little pieces of colored paper here and there, you can feel free to do that. There's no right way to do this. There's no exact way. There's many right ways to do this project. Starting off, what you can do is either use scissors, which again, everybody's got at home, or if you have a crafter in the family, or if you've made art out of paper before, you might have one of these X-Acto blades, or some people call them scalpels or hobby knives. And these are super sharp, but really great for cutting out detailed things. So you don't need this, but you do need scissors for sure, okay? If you are using a cutting knife like this, then you do want to have some type of a mat or a magazine or something thick underneath while you're cutting, so you don't tear up the kitchen table or your desk or wherever you're working. Talking about cutting things out, I just have recycled paper. I'm just going to use some things that I would be recycling anyways. And so you can go about this 2 ways. You can either draw things out to begin with and then cut them out, using your scissors or X-Acto blade, right? Making sure to cut just before the pencil line so you don't have to erase it after, because you just want clean pieces of paper with nothing on them if you can help it. Or you can just cut freehand too. If you're doing abstract shapes, there's nothing saying that you can't just cut some strange stuff out and go for it like that, okay? For those that are using a cutting blade, I'm just going to demo that really quickly because you want to make sure it's safe. So keep the cap on until you're ready to use it. Make sure you're sitting or leaning up against your desk. And then when you're cutting, you want to make sure that you cut out any inside pieces first. So if we're looking at this, what I'm cutting out is a capital A, because letters are fair game as well. And for the for the A, I'm making sure to cut out these middle smaller parts first, and then cutting out the outside. So you've really got to make sure that your hands are above where you're cutting and you're cutting down below, so that there's no chance. You don't want to have your hands down here because you could go right across your fingers. So you definitely want to avoid that if you're using one of those blades. If a piece isn't coming out properly, just make sure that you're pressing down and make sure those corners are being met. So for this part, I'm cutting inside the line to make sure that I'm avoiding any pencil lines on the finished product. And I'm just going from corner to corner here. So again, with the knife safety, you really want to make sure your fingers are out of the way. Any body parts need to be safe. Okay, there we go. So I've cut it out. So now I have a capital A like that. So any shapes are good. For the concept is up to you. If you love soccer, do something about soccer. If you love video games or a particular one, cut out the symbol, do something interesting with that. The concept is totally up to you. I also want to remind people that once you cut something out, say you cut something out like this, and you're like, okay, this is what I want. You always have a negative version, and that can be incorporated as well. You could prop this up and have things facing. So each time you make something, you actually make a negative version of it, and you can use whatever you want there. That can be very, very interesting. Once you have everything set up, once you have your paper and all your pieces set up, I'm just going to do a couple of things here just to show. Then you want to start thinking about lighting. So how do we light this thing? Number one, in your room, wherever you're working, there's always going to be some shadow because you're going to be working in some kind of a light. Now that might be okay. You can always go next to a window if you want to. Or if you have a lamp or a flashlight, take a look at this. This is just a regular flashlight, and I can use this thing to shine a light and really get some interesting shadows. So if I'm down here, the shadows are going up. Maybe I want it kind of over here, so I'm really seeing the face in profile. If I swing it over here, you can see the shadow goes to the bottom. And playing around with this is one of the key parts to getting a really interesting image and the best possible image. Something with a flashlight, if you do end up using that, if you put a piece of paper or a Kleenex on top of the lens like that, then you get a little bit of a softer light, and it's not quite so harsh, and it doesn't put as many lines from the actual bulb on there. So that's a good trick too if you want to get some distinct shadows. So once you have it lit and everything is perfect the way you want it, then you're going to document your artwork. So using a device if you want to, or an actual camera, you can do that by just making sure that you have the lighting just right, making sure everything's perfect, getting that screen right above where you're at. You can take it at an angle if you think that looks interesting. You can have it straight above if you want, and take that picture. And then once you have the picture, you can edit it and play with that. So if you're interested in that, I'll have another video showing you that. So that's the basics of making this paper and shadow project. Good luck.